This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
This podcast is supported by Google. Hey folks, Stephen Johnson here, co-founder of Notebook LM. As an author, I've always been obsessed with how software could help organize ideas and make connections. So we built Notebook LM as an AI-first tool for anyone trying to make sense of complex information. Upload your documents and Notebook LM instantly becomes your personal expert, uncovering insights and helping you brainstorm. Try it at notebooklm.google.com.
A new report just came out that said Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella is haunted at the prospect of Microsoft not surviving the AI era. Yeah, that Microsoft, the very company that has, for the most part, been defining the AI area. That Microsoft, the one that is currently the second most valuable company in the world, the one that's been driving AI innovation. That Microsoft is haunted at the prospect of not surviving the AI era. So what does that mean for everyone else? If one of the key companies driving the entire industry forward is haunted by the prospect of not surviving, my gosh, what are the rest of us supposed to do? Well, I hope to answer that question and a whole lot more today on Everyday AI. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Everyday AI. This is your daily live stream, podcast, and free daily newsletter helping everyday business leaders like you and me not just keep up with what's happening in the world of AI, but how we can make sense of it and actually grow our companies and careers with what we leverage from all this. So if that's what you're trying to do, it starts here with the unedited, unscripted live stream podcast. But if you really want to be the smartest person in AI at your company, you got to go to our website. It's a legit cheat code, youreverydayai.com. There, make sure you go sign up for the free daily newsletter if you haven't already. Each day we recap the live stream podcast of the day, but we also have all the other AI news for the day to get you not just keep up, but how you can actually get ahead. All right, but we're here today to talk about this story. It's actually big, and you all actually wanted it. Put the poll out in our newsletter, and you said, we need to hear about this. It's Hot Take Tuesday. I'm going to do my best to balance the facts of what's going on with some of my hot takes, but here's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to dive deeper into this recent report talking about why Microsoft CEO is fearful of AI. We're going to uncover how AI agents might disrupt Microsoft's core business, talk about the balance of Microsoft's AI investments with their staffing moves, because they've been laying off a ton of people this year. And we are going to lay out 6 AI native business lessons we can derive from Satya Nadella's words. All right, here is, if you missed the story, well, number one, if you missed the story, why? We shared about it in yesterday's AI News That Matters. It was in our newsletter late last week when this broke, but pretty big story that I don't think a lot of people were actually talking about. And I was kind of scratching my head. Again, one of the companies that was first to bring AI to the masses, aside from ChatGPT, it was Microsoft. Microsoft, I think, was the company really pushing AI into the enterprise, right? When ChatGPT came out in November of 2022, most enterprises weren't using ChatGPT. But when Copilot launched shortly thereafter, based largely on the original GPT technology from OpenAI, it was Microsoft that was pushing AI to the enterprise masses. They've been building it. They've been investing billions of dollars. Yet here we are, this report from The Verge. And I'm going to read the headline and subhead here, and then we're going to go into a little bit of what this report said. So the headline, Satya Nadella is haunted at the prospect of Microsoft not surviving the AI era. And then the subhead says, worries about missing the AI market might explain the culture of fear some Microsoft employees are experiencing. So if you didn't read the report, don't worry. Here's the takeaways. So Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said some of Microsoft's biggest businesses might not be as relevant going forward in the artificial intelligence era, meaning real risk of decline for some of Microsoft's core services. He pointed to the example in the telling tale of Digital Equipment Corporation, or DEC, as a major warning. They were previously a leader in their space, I think the second biggest company in computing at one point, and they just collapsed after missing the shift to personal computing. And Nadella linked that lesson from DEC's kind of demise to Microsoft, noting that Windows New Technology, or Window NT, a lot of their original talent from that division actually came from DEC layoffs. So kind of, he was saying no giant is safe. And he said that Microsoft must keep top talent with strong pay and meaningful work, or the company will slide. Employees, according to the Verge report, didn't take this news very well, right? So this was reportedly during an internal town hall earlier this month. And overall, employees described a colder, this is quote unquote, colder, more rigid, lacking empathy, end quote, culture with morale at an all-time low. And that makes sense because in May and July, Microsoft laid off about 15,000 people, while at the same time investing tens of billions, with a B, tens of billions of dollars into AI infrastructure. So if you've been sleeping under a rock, or maybe, you know, the only thing you know about AI, maybe you're new to the show, maybe you just know about ChatGPT and Gemini. So let's put this into framing here a little bit, where Windows and, well, Copilot is in all of this. But Satya Nadella fears that AI will make Microsoft products potentially obsolete, and he again cited DEC's collapse. Right now, Microsoft is investing $80 billion in infrastructure to essentially try and build a dominant AI moat. Like I said, so far this year, and we're not even through the entire year, essentially between the May 2025 and July 2025 layoffs, more than 15,000 people were laid off from Microsoft. And it seems like Microsoft's focus has shifted from selling software, selling hardware, to controlling the future of autonomous AI agents. And I think what he's doing here ultimately is he's making a high stakes bet. He is trying to reinvent the company, which I understand can be difficult, right? We're talking hundreds of thousands of employees, and slow moving ships can sink fast. That's something a lot of people don't understand. And, you know, it seems like Nadella here is really firing a warning shot to the rest of the company, saying, hey, if we don't move quicker, if we don't take AI a little bit more seriously, if we don't invest in it a little bit more, there's no guarantee, right, that we will keep our spot kind of where they are right now as the second most valuable company in the world by market cap, trailing only NVIDIA. So let's take a look, like your local neighborhood CVS. I bring receipts, as always. All right, so let's look at how Microsoft makes its money. There's really three big categories that make up the overwhelming majority. About 3/4 of their revenue comes from three different categories. Of course, they have their gaming, their LinkedIn division, their Bing search revenue, devices, all those things. But the three big things, 40% of their revenue, and this is from 2024 reports, 40% comes from their server products and cloud services. 22% comes from my slides there cut off, office products and cloud services, and then 10% comes from Windows. So let's break down what that actually entails. Okay, so the 40% of the server and cloud, that's Azure, right? Azure sells compute, storage, databases, AI in the cloud, right? To simplify here, It's used to host apps, right? Thousands of enterprise companies obviously use Microsoft server and cloud offerings in Azure to host their apps, data, AI workloads, and big enterprise contracts just drive that bucket, right? The next biggest one would be their Office and Cloud division, and that's essentially Microsoft 365, right? Those monthly subscriptions with add-ons, including Microsoft Copilot, right? So in most cases, enterprises are paying a monthly cost for Microsoft 365, as well as an additional monthly cost per user per month for Microsoft 365 Copilot. All right, so that's about 22% of their revenue. And then 10% is just PCs, right? Their operating system. So that's mainly from PC makers and company licenses for Windows. Okay, so about 3/4 there in those three categories alone. So what was Satya Nadella worried about then, right? Okay, well, if people are going to use AI more, wouldn't their biggest bucket just grow? Wouldn't more people use, Azure to host their AI apps in their cloud? Maybe, but I think each of those three categories, in theory, do have the potential for disruption. So how might these big moneymakers actually be at risk? Talk about that here in a second, after a quick word from our sponsors.
This podcast is supported by Google. Hey folks, Stephen Johnson here, co-founder of Notebook LM. As an author, I've always been obsessed with how software could help organize ideas and make connections. So we built Notebook LM as an AI-first tool for anyone trying to make sense of complex information. Upload your documents, and Notebook LM instantly becomes your personal expert, uncovering insights and helping you brainstorm. Try it at notebooklm.google.com. This podcast is supported by Google. Hey folks, Stephen Johnson here, co-founder of Notebook LM. As an author, I've always been obsessed with how software could help organize ideas and make connections. So we built Notebook LM as an AI-first tool for anyone trying to make sense of complex information. Upload your documents, and Notebook LM instantly becomes your personal expert, uncovering insights and helping you brainstorm. Try it at notebooklm.google.com.
So in theory, Microsoft's three big buckets of revenue could definitely be disrupted by AI. Even though in theory, some of them grow with AI, they could also be disrupted. Because as an example, their big bucket, server and cloud, well, Google and Amazon could just build superior AI orchestration platforms that enterprises prefer over Azure. We've also seen Oracle kind of come in to be the fourth member of the big three cloud providers, which has historically just been AWS from Amazon, Google Cloud, and then Azure from Microsoft. So Oracle with some big deals with OpenAI and with Meta that we talked about this week. Well, they're starting to, edge their way in there. So in theory, if these other big cloud providers have a little bit better AI hosting, well, it could actually eat into Microsoft's lead there. The one that makes probably the most sense is the Office and Cloud sliver. And I think this is probably what Satya Nadella was ultimately talking about when he was kind of telling his employees that they needed to disrupt themselves, right? Because what happens if people don't need Microsoft Word anymore? What happens if people don't need Excel or PowerPoint? And you might be saying, okay, well, how would that happen? Well, what if AI agents are just writing reports, right? What if AI agents take away the need to do meetings, take away the need to have so many Teams calls, to have as many emails, to create those PowerPoints? I think it's actually a real possibility. That piece, I'm not saying it's going to go down to nothing, but when you are making $55 billion a year from selling software that AI agents kind of negate or can in the future negate the need for that very software? Yeah. I mean, you are talking there about potentially losing billions of dollars, maybe in the long run, tens of billions of dollars, if people no longer need access to that software, right? And I think that's a larger conversation for another day, right? What does the future of work actually look like as we are more orchestrating multi-agentic workflows? Even if you're a non-technical person, that's the future of work, right? You are going to be overseeing, directing, and checking the work of different agents because in general, AI, large language models, especially models with the scaffolding they have now, models that can reason, think, plan step by step, and use all of your business data, they're better knowledge workers than the smartest of us, right? So the future of work, regardless of what you think of it right now, is more agent orchestration, but they don't need licenses. They don't, right? That's the reality. So, okay, Satya Nadella, I think, has a point there because now you can just tell an agent to create a quarterly sales report instead of having to open those, 3, 4, 5 different applications. It's definitely not going to negate the need for Microsoft Office products in the future, but it could, in theory, severely cut into one of their bigger buckets of revenue. And then last but not least, Windows, right? So last year that brought in about $23 billion in revenue. Well, if you just have natural language AI interfaces replacing what us humans do on the desktop point and click environments, I don't know. Maybe in the future, we won't need the same type of operating systems. I don't see that happening in the next, 5 years, but maybe after that, I don't know. There's some things, even as someone that has been doing this for every day for nearly 3 years. And yes, I'm lucky enough to get to talk to super smart people all the time at Microsoft and Google and Amazon and, all these people tackling the future of work. I think most people can kind of foresee what the next couple of years look like, but I don't know. Is there a working world where we aren't using operating systems, where we're not sitting in front of, a computer and all these monitors? Maybe, right? But I do know, at least in the short run, the very technology, agents that Microsoft is investing heavily in and in just compute, they're investing in data centers, right? Regardless, it's an autonomous agent future that Microsoft is investing in. And in theory, that would reduce some of their services right now. So I do get and understand and respect, obviously, where Satya Nadella is coming from that point, trying to disrupt the company from within, because essentially saying, if we keep doing the same thing we've been doing for decades, we're just going to be starving ourselves. Also, you have to look at the human cost. Can't overlook that. And one of those bullet points from this town hall meeting was this cultural shift. It seems like, according to reports, everyone's really on edge, and probably with good reason at Microsoft. That's because Microsoft, like I said, has already eliminated 15,000 jobs over the past couple of months, despite record financial performance, right? Stock essentially at an all-time high. The company is extremely profitable. Financials looking good, eliminating jobs. And y'all, FYI, lean in for a little secret. I told you 2 years ago this would happen. I told you 2 years ago the companies building AI would be more profitable than ever. They would invest tens of billions of dollars into AI infrastructure, and they would lay off tens of thousands of people. Go back. That's what we have our website for. We have those receipts. I've been saying that. All right, here's the Hot Take Tuesday part coming out, right? I've been saying this for more than 2 years before it happened. I said the big tech companies building this, they're going to be investing tens of billions of dollars into AI, and then they're going to eventually have tremendous financial gains, and then they're going to lay off tens of thousands of people, and then eventually the rest of the enterprise world will follow suit, right? Whether that takes a couple of quarters or a couple of years, that's to be determined. But we've already seen that happen with some of the biggest tech companies in the world, and Microsoft is no different. But they say that the cuts right now are a strategic move. Well, number one, to fund a massive $80 billion AI investment as AI itself begins to automate coding and sales roles within the company. Yeah, and you can do the math. The math doesn't math there, right? Those 15,000 people, I don't know, if you say they have an average salary of $150,000, that's, I don't know, $2.5 billion or something. So, obviously it's not an even exchange, lay off 15,000 people and there's your $80 billion, but it's part of more of this organizational flattening that Microsoft has reportedly created. And that has kind of led to this culture of fear that we've seen in a lot of recent reports and uncertainty, damaging employee morale and also fueling some recent union activity. Which leads us back to that very report from The Verge on the CEO saying that he's quote unquote, haunted. And this is, not his quote, but from The Verge saying that Nadella is haunted at the prospect of Microsoft not surviving the AI era. So is that real? Is Microsoft actually at risk of not surviving the AI era? Absolutely not. No, Microsoft is, I think, not just going to survive. They are going to thrive. I was having this conversation with a VC here in Chicago recently, right? And we were talking and drawing parallels between the .com bubble bust of the late 90s with the impending AI bubble bust, right? Even if you are a core believer in the technology, such as myself, there still will be some sort of AI bubble. But you look back at what happened in the late 90s bubble bust, I think there was maybe only one company in the top 10 of US companies that was part of that, .com era. For the most part, the biggest companies in the world were still in industries like consumer goods. They were still in industry like energy and oil. It's not the case now, right? Right now, the entire global economy is riding on AI, specifically the U.S. economy, as the top 6 companies in the U.S. by market cap are all just now essentially AI companies, right? Amazon, Apple, Meta, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA. Throw Tesla in there too if you want, right? The Mag 7. So Microsoft is not at all at risk of not surviving the AI era. I think we'll get to ultimately what this is all about, but look at the numbers, right? Over the last 6 months, the AI sector has seen insane growth. So Meta is up 23% over the past 6 months. Microsoft is up 30%. Google is up 48%. And NVIDIA is up 51%. Those are extremely lofty numbers for the biggest companies in the world. Over the past 6 months, those companies are averaging, they've grown by a third, which usually takes multiple years to experience that kind of growth, sometimes up to a decade. Right. And we've seen that over the past 6 months from Meta, Microsoft, Google, and NVIDIA. But Microsoft is not at all in danger. And here's why I think they're very unlikely to be disrupted anytime soon. Well, number one, they're investing, right? They're investing in, I think, what is going to be the biggest moat, and that is just compute, right? $80 billion that they've invested for fiscal year 2025 in data centers building out throughout the country. Also, they have entrenched distribution, right? So yeah, not only Windows, Microsoft 365, and Azure, like we talked about, but GitHub, right? GitHub, there are 15 million GitHub Copilot developers. And guess what? All these other companies, right? So, if you're working on Anthropic, Claude, if you're working on, Codex via OpenAI, right? All these IDEs, everyone is still using GitHub. You can't not use GitHub. That is owned by Microsoft, right? So they're not going anywhere. The other thing, so the most recent stat show that right now, Copilot Studio is being widely adopted in the enterprise. 90% of Fortune 500 companies in the US are using Microsoft's no-code, low-code Copilot Studio to build autonomous agents. 230 50,000 organizations are reportedly already using it. So that's huge. Also, they have platform control, right? Between the Azure AI Foundry, their agent service position, that Microsoft is the leading right now enterprise agent factory. They might eventually lose that to Google as Google starts their rollout. Maybe OpenAI's, their agents SDK will start to make a bigger splash. But right now, technically, even though we don't always talk about them as much, and by we, I mean just the AI industry, the tech scene, but Microsoft still owns that space, right? Especially when you talk about you can't get around using GitHub. There's no large viable alternative, at least today. They also, one of the biggest concerns for AI agents in the future of work is, well, governance. And I think Microsoft has a huge edge there. They support both Anthropic's very wildly popular MCP, Model Context Protocol. They support Google's A2A, agent-to-agent protocol. So they're working with their competitors technically to support their technology so they can still be a mainstay. I think it's a smart move, right? In the same way that NVIDIA invested $5 billion into Intel, right? Sometimes you have to make strategic partnerships with companies that in theory you may be competing against. Microsoft also has their intra-agent ID, which I think is huge for agent traceability and observability as well. And those their observability rules right now do align with both the US and EU, which is huge. Also, their hybrid architecture. They're investing heavily in smarter, better, faster chips, right? Or what Microsoft hopes to be with their NPUs plus their cloud agents. And also they have Model Hedge, right? So yes, they've relied heavily on their OpenAI partnership early on to fuel Copilot. But we talked about on the show last week that they're starting to roll out Anthropic's Claude models to power their Office products. And they're also investing even more heavily on their own internal models that they just released some of their more recent ones about 2 weeks ago. So I just give you a whole lot of reasons there that I don't think Microsoft is likely at all to be disrupted anytime soon. So what was all this about? Why did Satya Nadella reportedly have this huge town hall where he reportedly said he was haunted at the prospect of Microsoft not surviving the AI era? And where he actually said that, he had worries that some of Microsoft's biggest products could be completely disrupted. Well, I think it was a deliberate move to fight the dangerous complacency that comes from when large companies experience the kind of growth that we're talking about. And I think he was just framing the AI transition as an existential threat, not just another business opportunity, which I think is the right way to talk about it. And as much as I don't like having that, gloom and doom mentality, I like to try to be, your upbeat friend in AI. But you have to also understand that AI is an existential threat if you don't pivot, if you don't unlearn, right? And I think this also served as a crucial, at least on paper, justification for those painful but necessary changes, like the $80 billion investment that came after 15,000 people were recently laid off. And I think the goal was ultimately to force Microsoft, as one of the largest employers in the world, to disrupt its own profitable business before a competitor would, because the competitors are trying to definitely disrupt them. So what does this mean for you? I probably know what you're thinking. Like, all right, cool, Jordan. I know a little bit more now about this Microsoft fiasco than I did 25 minutes ago. Don't worry. The reason why I came with a Hot Take Tuesday, well, number one, I work for you, and in the newsletter, you all overwhelmingly voted for this to go over. But I think there's a lot that we can actually derive from this whole situation. I think Satya Nadella had to get ahead of it because, again, let me double check. I think Microsoft has like 300,000 employees. Let's see what the latest is. Sorry, 228. All right, 200 20-some thousand employees, right? So you have to get ahead of it. If you're Satya Nadella, you have to start, planting these seeds of we have to disrupt ourselves. You have to do it now because they are a slow-moving ship because they're one of the biggest ships in the world, right? The Titanic can't move like a jet ski. But I think if you listen to his message now, the majority of people listening to this, you are decision makers in your own industry. You can learn from what Satya Nadella is trying to do. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this, reading and writing, and I came up with 6 what I think are important AI mindset shifts that you can take away and start implementing within your organization. All right, ready? Here they are. Number 1, don't wait for AI disruption. You need to actively cannibalize your own profitable non-AI operations before competitors do. That is one of the things Satya Nadella was talking about. Just because something is profitable and has worked over the past decade or two, it doesn't mean that we should still be investing in it. Number 2, you need to launch agent pilots this quarter, replacing some legacy workflows or your first attempt to replace a piece of a legacy workflow. So even if you had a standard operating procedure that has been printing money in the pre-Gen AI phase, there's no guarantee that that is going to continue to print any money in the next year or two. Number 3, you need to focus on controlling the intelligence layer in your industry rather than just improving your existing products. I think so much of the future of competition, especially here in the US, is about controlling that intelligence layer. Number 4, you need to invest heavily in cultural transformation alongside technology, because demoralized teams can't execute when you need to actually go AI native. I don't think a lot of organizations right now are AI native. I think, for the most part, they're AI powered. But there's going to be a certain point, and this is what Satya Nadella is trying to do at Microsoft, where you're going to have to blow some things up, where you're going to have to maybe shift people around on your team. You might have to make some of those tough decisions to let some people go as well. But you need to invest heavily in cultural transformation because, let's be honest, people are scared of AI. People are scared of losing their jobs. People are scared about the future of work. I get it. I'm uneasy about it as well. But you have to be able to talk about it. And y'all, AI, I've said this 1,000 times. Here's 1,001. AI is a people problem, not a technology problem, or a people opportunity, not a tech opportunity. All right. Number 5, small teams with AI can now outcompete large corporations. It used to be your company's headcount could be a competitive advantage. Well, not anymore. That's disappearing rapidly if you don't unlearn and rebuild. I don't care how many sales reps you have. I don't care how big your marketing team is. I don't care how many field reps. It doesn't matter, right? In some instances, like I said, the big ship can take too long to turn. It can be too costly to pivot over the course of a couple of years when a smaller speedboat can pivot on the turn. You have to understand that, especially for our audience that's in that Fortune 500, that Fortune 1000 demographic. Small teams can outcompete you. You have to keep that in mind. You have to start having this mindset shift now. And then number 6, last but not least, you have to build new competitive moats around your company's, I like to call it first company reasoning data and AI orchestration, not human expertise. The name of the game of business for decades has been leveraging human expertise. What does my team know in their brain that our competitors don't? That element of that certain competitive advantage is kind of gone. Now it's all about, can my people, can my leadership leverage AI faster than our competitors? There you go. 6 AI mindset shifts to take away from this Microsoft. I don't know if I'll call it a fiasco. Let's just call it a learning moment. All right. So I hope this was helpful, but I'm going to leave you with this. If the largest company in the world that has been building AI, if the CEO of that company is haunted at the prospect of Microsoft not surviving the AI era, you have to take it seriously as well. This can't be a step-by-step, one-year pilot. Let's upskill, let's reskill. I've been saying this for a long time. We've seen a lot of market disruption across the US. And it's from companies that unlearn and they go AI native. So no, I don't think you should be nervous, but I think you need to take a note from what Satya Nadella reportedly said at this town hall meeting, and you need to start making those changes in your organization today. All right, like I said, I hope this is helpful. If so, please repost this on LinkedIn. Put together a nice little guide, called it Microsoft's DEC Moment, a leader's guide to surviving AI. So if you're listening on the podcast, we always put the link back to the LinkedIn live stream. So go repost this show. All right. For our live stream audience, you can go repost it now, and I will send you all of this. Essentially, I do so much prep work. I have so many notes, so many AI agents going and fetching me information, and I'm digesting it all. So much of it, 90% of it doesn't make the cut. So if this was helpful for you, this leader's guide to surviving AI that we just put together, just finished, it's going to be extremely helpful. So go repost this show on LinkedIn. I will share that to you. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please go to youreverydayai.com. Sign up for the free daily newsletter. We're going to be recapping the highlights from today's show and a lot more. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
This podcast is supported by Google. Hey folks, Stephen Johnson here, co-founder of Notebook LM. As an author, I've always been obsessed with how software could help organize ideas and make connections. So we built Notebook LM as an AI-first tool for anyone trying to make sense of complex information. Upload your documents, and Notebook LM instantly becomes your personal expert, uncovering insights and helping you brainstorm. Try it at notebooklm.google.com.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.